March 17, AD 180, Marcus Aurelius dies. He doesn't die in Rome. He dies at Vindobona, today's Vienna, on the Danube, for decades one of the empire's most delicate frontier lines anywhere. At that moment, the empire is near its peak, from Britain to North Africa, and from the Iberian Peninsula to Syria in the east. To defend it, Rome maintains 28 to 30 legions and roughly the same number of auxiliaries, more than 300,000 men in all. They aren't concentrated in one place. They're spread across the main fronts: the Rhine and the Danube in the north, Syria and the Euphrates in the east, and across the key hubs that move grain from Africa and Egypt into Italy. It's a huge machine, costly and already under strain. And Marcus Aurelius dies on one of those frontiers because that's where the empire's security is decided. Within a few decades, this power will enter the greatest crisis in its history. Not because Rome runs out of soldiers or suddenly becomes fragile. The real shift is political. The rules change. The rules that decide who truly has the right to command the army. When does that shift happen? And why, once it begins, can Rome not stop it? In AD 180, Rome rules a territory of over 1.9 million square miles. It is organized into dozens of provinces, linked by a road network of more than 50,000 miles of paved routes, built to move armies even more than goods. It's an imposing network, but major movements across it still require time, planning, and resources. The issue isn't Rome's total strength, but where that strength is deployed. The distribution of legions creates constraints the empire can't quickly undo. These forces aren't distributed evenly. Top priority is the Danube frontier, where for more than 10 years Marcus Aurelius fought the Marcomanni, the Quadi, and other peoples capable of straining the entire border. Roughly 9 to 11 legions are concentrated here, because the Danube isn't just a frontier. It's an invasion corridor leading straight toward the Balkans and northern Italy itself. A second major deployment sits on the Rhine, a long, fragmented frontier that can be crossed at many points. Here, the legions aren't meant to conquer. They're meant to react quickly to raids and sudden shifts, maintaining a continuous presence. So in AD 180, the Roman army isn't a mobile strike force. Each legion sits where it has to, and moving one means exposing another stretch of the frontier.
Did you know that most people who watch our documentaries aren't subscribed yet? If you enjoy animated maps and history, join our community. Leave a like and subscribe so you never miss the next episodes.
On the evening of December 31, AD 192, Emperor Commodus is assassinated in Rome. Within hours, the seat of power is suddenly vacant. What follows in 193 is one of the most unstable moments in Roman history. In under 12 months, 5 men claim the imperial title, while central power changes hands repeatedly between Rome and the frontiers throughout the empire. On January 1, 193, the Senate proclaims Pertinax emperor, an elderly, respected general chosen to restore order and discipline. He lasts less than 3 months. On March 28th, he is killed by the Praetorian Guard, angered by austerity measures and by delays in paying promised donatives, the cash bonuses the Praetorians now demand at every succession from every emperor. Immediately afterward, for the first time, the throne is openly put up for auction. Didius Julianus buys it by promising higher rewards to the Praetorians. Rome has an emperor, but no army behind him. His authority doesn't reach beyond the city walls. In the provinces, the reaction is immediate. On the Danube, the legions proclaim Septimius Severus. In Syria, other troops acclaim Pescennius Niger. In Britain, the army backs Clodius Albinus. 3 emperors rise far from Rome, each with an army ready to march. In June 193, Septimius Severus, proclaimed in the spring by the Danubian legions, marches on Rome. Behind him stand the Danube legions, among the empire's most experienced and numerous. Didius Julianus is executed after 9 weeks. The empire enters a civil war that will only end after years of fighting. The lesson is clear. Rome and the Senate no longer choose the emperor. The legions choose him directly out on the frontiers. Septimius Severus's first decision as emperor is to control armed force in the capital. In 193, after taking power, he orders the Praetorian Guard disbanded, the elite corps that for more than 2 centuries has guarded the emperor's security inside the city of Rome. The Guard numbers about 9,000 men, well-paid and politically decisive. In recent years, it hasn't merely protected the throne. It killed Pertinax, auctioned the empire, and proved it could create and destroy emperors without ever leaving the capital. The Praetorians are disarmed, stripped of privileges, and sent away from Rome. In their place, Severus forms a new guard by choosing men directly from the Danube legions. It's a crucial shift. The emperor's security is no longer entrusted to an urban, semi-autonomous corps, but to soldiers tied personally to the ruler and his military career. Meanwhile, civil war flares. Between 193 and 194, Septimius Severus defeats Pausanias Niger after campaigns in Asia Minor and Syria, securing control of the east. In the west, however, another rival remains: Clodius Albinus, commander of the legions in Britain. To avoid opening a second front, Severus recognizes him as Caesar for a time, presenting him as the designated heir. It's a tactical choice, not a lasting compromise, and it can't last. Once the Eastern Front is secured, Severus names Caracalla his heir, and the deal with Albinus collapses. In 197, Severus faces Albinus in Gaul at the Battle of Lugdunum. Tens of thousands of Roman soldiers fight on both sides, one of the largest battles between imperial armies in Rome's history. Severus's victory ends the civil war and leaves the empire in the hands of one master, Septimius Severus alone, at last. From then on, the army is strengthened systematically. Soldiers' pay rises by about 50%, and recruitment expands. Soldiers' marriages are legalized, deepening the army's roots in the provinces. And Legio II Parthica is stationed at Albanum, just outside Rome, a mobile legion guarding the capital and a tool of political control. Loyalty is tied to the emperor, not to Rome itself. In this new balance, the Senate loses its central role, and key decisions shift ever more toward military commands and frontier headquarters across the empire. When Severus dies in 211, the empire is stable. But that stability rests on a new, fragile balance. Rome is ruled by the army, not the other way around. When Severus dies in 211, power passes to his 2 sons, Caracalla and Geta. The arrangement lasts only briefly. In December of that same year, Geta is killed inside the imperial palace during a meeting their mother, Julia Domna, tries to mediate. Soldiers loyal to Caracalla burst into the room and kill him before his eyes. The empire is left with a single emperor again. Caracalla inherits a state that depends more and more on the army. His response is straightforward. He courts the legions, lives with them, and pays well. Soldiers' pay rises by about a third, strengthening loyalty, but worsening pressure on imperial finances. Keeping hundreds of thousands of men under arms only gets more expensive especially in an empire that no longer expands. In 212, Caracalla issues the Constitutio Annotiniana, extending Roman citizenship to almost all free men in the empire. It isn't ideological. It's an administrative measure that broadens the state's tax base to sustain an ever more expensive imperial system. In 215, another signal appears. The Annotinianus is introduced, a new silver coin with a face value higher than the denarius, but a lower silver content. It's a short-term fix. It pays soldiers and suppliers, yet it also shows how fragile the state's finances are becoming. In 217, Caracalla is assassinated during a campaign in the east. Macrinus replaces him, the first emperor not from the senatorial order, but from the equestrian order, the class of officials and commanders in the imperial machine. He reigns just over a year. Power changes hands again, quickly. The stability built by Severus still holds, but now starts to creak. In 218, after Macrinus falls, the empire passes to Elagabalus. The change at the top is swift, but the problem isn't the emperor's personality. It's the world he has to govern. In the east, the situation is changing drastically. Between 224 and 226, in Persia, the Parthian dynasty is overthrown by Ardashir I, founder of the Sasanian dynasty. A more centralized, more aggressive state emerges, openly claiming the lands of the Achaemenid Empire, including Roman Mesopotamia. For the first time in centuries, Rome faces an eastern opponent able to mobilize comparable resources and plan large-scale wars on a scale Rome had never faced before. When Severus Alexander takes power in 222, the east is already the decisive front. The new emperor tries to restore order and reassert control, but he has to do it in a profoundly changed context. Between 231 and 233, Rome wages a major campaign against the Sasanians, with headquarters in Syria and operations across Mesopotamia. It's a complex war, fought far from Rome, requiring long supply lines and difficult coordination among multiple armies. The results are uncertain. No disaster, but no clear victory. In Rome, however, it is presented as a success. Strategically, the empire holds. Politically, the problem is different. Troops judge an emperor by results, not by logistical difficulties or structural constraints, and they punish failure quickly, with anger, mistrust, and revolt. When the Eastern campaign ends, the empire has to shift attention again. In the north, along the Rhine, pressure from Germanic peoples rises, especially in Upper Germany, where raids and tensions make the border unstable. The frontier begins to fray. This time, the army is not prepared to wait. The power system built by Septimius Severus is about to face its hardest test yet. In 234, after returning from the Eastern campaign, Severus Alexander has to make an immediate decision on the Rhine frontier. The legions in Upper Germany demand a hard military response to Germanic raids, an offensive campaign, booty, and border security. Instead, the emperor chooses a different line. He tries to contain the situation through negotiations and payments to avoid a long, costly war that would bleed the provinces. Strategically, it makes sense. For soldiers, it is unacceptable. Here, the system's structural weakness becomes visible. Troops are now used to measuring the emperor by immediate results: victory, booty, and donatives paid out on the spot. On the Rhine, no option is neutral. War costs. Compromise looks like weakness. Delay looks like incompetence. Trust collapses in a matter of weeks. In March 235, In a camp near Mogontiacum, today's Mainz, Severus Alexander and his mother, Julia Mamamia, are killed by soldiers. There is no trial and no formal political decision. It's a military revolt out in the open. In their place, the army acclaims Maximinus Thrax, a commander of provincial origin with no ties to the Senate or Rome's aristocracy. He owes everything to his military career and the troops' favor. Maximinus will never set foot in Rome. The shift is clear. For the first time, and openly, the emperor is chosen directly from the barracks, without institutional mediation. This isn't an isolated coup. It's the sign that the rules of the game have changed. Here, the crisis of the 3rd century begins, not because Rome collapses, but because imperial power becomes structurally unstable. From this moment on, imperial authority becomes inseparable from the consent of the army itself. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episodes.